What if I told you that one of the best college volleyball teams is essentially just a club team all grown up? Well, that's what's happening at Stanford University men's volleyball, where 5 of the 7 starters on the team are from the same club. In this video, we break down how that happened, what the outlook is for Stanford volleyball, and why Bay to Bay is so popular for the Cardinal. Let's get right into it. If you clicked on this video, you're either a fan of Bay to Bay, Stanford, or just a general volleyball fan, and I welcome all 3 of you. This is not a slight to Stanford or Bay to Bay, just pointing out something I noticed after watching one of their recent matches.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
And the trend that is noticeable of Bay to Bay players going to Stanford University for men's volleyball. So what is Bay to Bay's role in this player development to get from the club level to Stanford? They're a very popular club based out of Campbell, California. They have risen to stardom over the past several years on social media, but they have been one of the preeminent club programs over the last 25 years, starting in 2000 and producing a lot of talent across all levels of collegiate volleyball. Notable alumni include Taylor Averill, who was a middle on the U.S. men's national team, competed in the Olympics last year and had a lot of success. Will Rotman, another Stanford guy, and a lot of other guys across the board who have had great careers in college. Bay to Bay, a really established program at this point, and they're only improving year after year with their impact on social, doing a lot of things to grow their brand, grow the game of volleyball. So I really commend them for all those efforts to make volleyball better and bigger in the US. So one of the reasons why I decided to make this video is because I was watching the Stanford UCLA game and I just love the way that Stanford played. They played a brand of volleyball that is really modern, lots of swipes, jams, tools, recycling, and finding ways to get back in system. When you're playing a big team, you have to find ways to score and you have to find ways to be crafty, tooling the block, getting guys up in the air and finding one-on-ones where you can. And I just think they did that at a really high level, and they didn't win the game, and that's sometimes okay. When you play the brand of volleyball that you want to play, and you have that identity in who you are as a team, it helps you go really far. And it helps these guys knowing that they've played together for the past several years at the club level. It builds that chemistry to be great athletes at the collegiate level. So I was a big fan of them in that game. Even though they lost, it brought me back to kind of why is the reason for this? And immediately I thought, a lot of these kids are Bay to Bay kids. A lot of these athletes came from the same club team, were under the same coaches, same coaching staff, teaching the same habits and drills and techniques. And so kudos has to be given to Bay to Bay for producing a lot of these high-level talented players at Stanford. And yeah, that's just an observation I made from watching the game, and I think that's a club that's doing a lot of good things for the sport. So I believe there are 8 Bay to Bay alumni on the current Stanford roster. Theo Snoey, he's the primary go-to guy for the Cardinal this year. Wagner, opposite. Theoren Brouillette, he's been their setter, their go-to guy, dishing out the ball. Nate Clinton on the outside, and Luke McFall out of the middle. And it's cool to see. It's cool to see 5 of 7 starters on the roster coming from the same club program. And you know that has to make a big impact on the way they play the game and the way they work together as a unit. And they definitely are a unit. They play like nobody else out there. You'll never see a team that recycles the ball more than Stanford does. There's a viral clip that went around social media on Instagram that I saw. One of their outsides, it must have been Snoey, who had 3 or 4 recycles in a row, and then on the 5th ball, found a way to tool the block. And that's just the way these guys play the game. It's crafty, it's smart, their defense is relentless, and that has to come from somewhere if they're all doing it. And I think they definitely build that culture up at Stanford, but I think a lot of that culture building comes from that Bay to Bay connection as well. Like I said, it's 20 minutes south of campus, so that's close to home. A lot of guys like to stay close to family, and being able to play in front of friends and family has to be a huge bonus for those guys as well. Pretty cool to see all those guys making an impact and playing. The guys that aren't, I'm sure they will find their time as well in the future. Obviously, California has got to be the biggest scene for volleyball. If you can recruit there, you're going to be competitive. If you can get some of the top talent in California, you're going to be most likely a top 10 team in the country in the NCAA. And Stanford has been hovering around that spot for the past couple years. Haven't been able to break through, but I really think this team is building, finding their core. They return every single player on their roster next year that is in a starting capacity. So I think that is huge for them next year. And I think they're going to continue to build. I think they're going to get better and keep improving as we go forward. This resurgence as a team comes just a few years after the program was almost eliminated. There was an announcement from Stanford in 2020 that 11 varsity sports would be terminated, and men's volleyball was one of them. It's not one that produces a lot of revenue for the institution, and I'm not sure what drove Stanford to initially make that decision. Fortunately, with the pressure of fans, alumni, players, coaches, the volleyball community, they were able to keep it. And Stanford's a historic program. They've had a lot of success over the past 25 years. And so I'm glad they still have a program, and I'm glad that they've bounced back from that hurdle of almost losing their program entirely. So it's really good for Costi to rally the troops and reclaim that team and continue to recruit at a high level to get these guys in the building that can make this team compete for championships. I touched on it a little bit before, but the chemistry from getting a lot of guys from the same team definitely makes things a little easier out there when you're familiar with each other. I expect them to continue to keep recruiting from Beta Bay. I don't see why they wouldn't. Obviously, you want to win the best kids from those two club teams in the area, MVVC and Beta Bay. You want to win your own backyard. That's what we always talk about. If you have kids coming out of your local area, you might not get all of them, but you want to get the cream of the crop if you can. I see this trend continuing in the future of Beta Bay kids going to Stanford. And I know there was a previous connection with some of the Beta Bay staff having a coaching role at Stanford. So I know that's kind of the direct pipeline, but going forward, I think this is a trend that we'll see, and I think it'll work out for Stanford in the future. What's next for Stanford? This year, I think they have a good team. They're competitive. Lots of new guys starting this year compared to last year. Obviously, a lot of juniors and sophomores in the starting roster, so it's a lot of their first time going up against some high-level competition. So the expectations aren't as high this year, but next year is really their year to go. Senior-laden team next year, and they really have to compete for an MPSF championship. I know UCLA brings back a good amount of their core next year as well. They got to find a way to compete, and they have to find a way to break that streak of losing to UCLA for the past couple years, and I think next year is the year to do it with this current roster in place from what I've seen from the way they've competed this year. And not to say this season is a wash, but Long Beach looks like they're walking away with this NCAA tournament from the way they've played so far. Undefeated. Nikolov is 1 in a million type player, and he's most likely not going to be returning next year. So that's good for the rest of the NCAA. But yeah, Stanford, I think their next steps are to continue to win Campbell, continue to win their region of California, but also find some players in the international market. You can't just recruit, your own territory. You have to expand, and that's what the best teams have done. Beach does a great job every single year getting international talent with Hershtinovich, Bushkov, Nikolov, Hawaii getting Rohr, Tatrisky, UCLA getting David, and had Guy Guinness prior to that. So you have to find, 1 or 2 guys every year that have that, international experience and can just bolster your lineup from a depth perspective and size perspective as well. Stanford isn't necessarily undersized, but they don't have the same production from the size that a UCLA, Long Beach, Hawaii type team does at this point. So I love the scrappiness. I love the way they play, but having that same MO from a guy that's 6'9" and can jump, above the antenna puts you in that gear of teams where you're competing every night, no matter the opponent. So always looking for that next guy would be my next step for Costi, and try and keep probing that international market to find that guy that could be a true difference maker and a program game changer. While I'm talking about the subject, I think Beta Bay has just done an awesome job on social this year. The Hoolahans, I follow both of them, and they both do a lot of great things individually and connected. I think if you're looking for the behind the scenes coaching content of how to run a program, how to run a team, what to say in timeouts, that sort of stuff, Ariel does that better than anyone else. If you want more of the program oversight side and just more molding into the comedic side of Division I analysis, I think Matt can provide that. But just overall, all of the social content that you see from Beta Bay these days just elevates the game of volleyball, promotes the club sport, and I think it's awesome for the sport. I really do. So big shout out to them. Shout out to Beta Bay as a whole. Would love to eventually get some of those athletes out to the Virginia region, playing for Marymount at some point if we can. But yeah, just really good stuff from that program, contributing talent to the next level, and Stanford for developing that talent and molding them into great players that have competed heavily at the best of levels in the game. So I'm looking forward to watching this team rest of the way. They aren't the favorite, but you never know. Like, there could be upsets this MPSF championship season and definitely in the NCAA tournament. So keep tuning into all this content, all the Division I content for the rest of the season, and hit me in the comments if you want to see anything in particular, maybe another club to highlight, anyone else that's doing a really good job out there. So thanks for watching this video, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.